Hello everyone, welcome to the fifth lord in all houses. We're looking at the fifth lord in your chart. It represents your children, your ability to learn. It also has so much to do with mantra, meditation, and everything that makes you feel joyful in life. Let's see how it's doing in your chart and also what the deep meaning is of this lord. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to sub below. If the video is good for you, give it a thumbs up. Let's begin. Firstly, everybody who are the house lords in Vedic astrology, you should understand that many signs have more than one lord, and you will need to check both to understand your destiny from that house. Secondly, we are using sign for a house system where a whole rasi or sign is contained in each house. This is most important. If you should attempt to use an equal house system, it just won't give you the correct result. The lord of Aries is Mars, of Taurus it's Venus and the moon. For Gemini, it's Mercury. For Cancer, the moon. For Leo, the sun. And for Virgo, it's Mercury and Rahu. For Libra, the lord is Venus. For Scorpio, it's Mars and Ketu. For Sagittarius, Jupiter. For Capricorn, Saturn. For Aquarius, Saturn and Rahu. And for Pisces, Jupiter and Ketu. Another important understanding is how do you judge the results of any house in your chart? Strongest indication are given by the planets in the house. First and foremost, check the videos on my channel showing you results of planets in houses in your chart. The next most powerful factor are the aspects to the house, especially when there are no planets in the house. Planets aspecting by sign and site, that planet will give you the result of the house. And finally, it's the lord of the house, the Bhavesha, what I'm discussing in this series, that will give you the result of the house. Don't forget, all three have to be considered equally in this order of importance. But for those who have rarely no planets in the house nor any aspect, the Bhavesha gives you the total story. The Sutesha is the ruler of your fifth house, everybody. Suta means children. Sutesha is the ruler of the house of children. But the fifth house is so much more than this. It is the house of your very basic creativity. How you create, how you enjoy, how you basically feel that deep love in your heart, which connects you to another person, falling in love, and enables you to create children. There is another word for the fifth house lord, though, not just Sutesha. It is Mantresha. Why? Because the fifth house is a house of mantra. This is so important. It means a sound vibration at the cores of all creation. The Karaka for the fifth house and what Sutesha represents in your chart, wherever he's gone, is a power of the sun, creative factor in our very lives itself. And also, this is about manifesting what we desire in life. Those famous laws of attraction, manifestation, etc., they're all coming from Sutesha. This is a power given to you according to the strength of Sutesha in your chart. Indeed, your creative ability itself, artistically, like poetry, dance, drama, music, etc., writing even creatively, it's all shown by the fifth house lord as well. It's how we manifest creation in any form whatsoever in our life. But the fifth house also represents students, those who you educate, you advise, you counsel, and how many followers you have, how many fans you have. It's all shown by the Sutesha in your chart. But who should you be listening to in life? A very special technique with the Sutesha is to see conjunctions to the Sutesha in your chart. Where is the fifth lord gone? And what planets are conjunct to that fifth lord? Let's say you've got Saturn with your fifth lord. You should listen to older people, even sometimes servants or your subordinates. If you have Jupiter conjunct to your Sutesha, you should listen to your guru, obviously, but also to your husband. He will give you the best advice if you are female. If you have Venus with your Sutesha, listen to women generally, but specifically to your wife if you are male. If the sun should be conjuncting or aspecting Sutesha, definitely listen to all authority figures and especially to your father. Mercury with your Sutesha, you should listen to younger people, maybe business people sometimes, tradespeople, quite a lot of people actually with Mercury, but specifically maternal uncle. The moon being with Sutesha, definitely mother is your very best advisor. Rahu, it's your maternal grandparents. And Ketu, it's your paternal grandparents. I think I left out Mars. I'm sure you know that Mars conjunct to any planet represents your brothers. So your Sutesha with Mars, listen to your siblings, specifically to your brothers. A very important few points about children, everybody. Sutesha and 5th house is children for everybody, male and female, but specifically male chart, because in a female chart, you have to look at something else as well. That is the 9th house. It is 5th from the 5th. So the 9th house lord tells you about childbirth and specifically condition of your pregnancies if you are female. But everyone should also see Venus in their chart. Venus is fertility itself, of course. So Venus in Taurus, Venus in Libra, Venus in Pisces, helpful for the blessings of children. Jupiter is Karaka for children. So when you have Jupiter in a conjunction to Sutesha, wherever in the chart, any house, that is favorable. Also, having aspect of Jupiter to your 5th house lord is also equally helpful. For everybody, you can judge the first child from the 5th house, as I've just said, but the second child from the 7th house, 3 away, younger sibling. The third child from the 9th house, 4th child, 11th house. And you can keep on going if you want to around the chart in that way. If you are female, though, always count first child additionally from the 9th house as your first pregnancy. A final important point, everybody, in regard to these readings. Sometimes I don't even mention children in every Sutesha house placement. Why? Because I'm using primarily Sage Parashara's excellent predictions, and sometimes he doesn't mention Sutesha in a house and children at all. He just talks about something else. So where it's not relevant, I do not mention it. It simply means that it's a neutral position of the Sutesha in regard to children. How to use the readings, everybody. Of course, we're using a Vedic chart, sign for a house, one sign equals a house, and sidereal zodiac most definitely. But if you are not sure of your chart, check the link below to a website, Deva Guru, which will easily bring up that for you for free on any device. Very important to remember that some signs have 2 lords. So if you've got Aquarius, let's say, 5th house, it's Shani and Rahu, and there are other signs as well. Please check the beginning of the video. Otherwise, you're only getting the reading for half of your potential destiny. If you do not have accurate ascendant, accurate birth time, it's always best to also check from your moon sign and read the 5th lord from Chandra Lagna as well. Yes, you can read in your D9. I'm always asked this question, but don't forget, D9 has completely different meaning in some respects, so with caution, you can also read from there. Sutesha, the 5th lord, has gone into the 1st house of your chart. What does this mean? Well, first of all, it's a good placement because knowledge, which is vidya, coming from this 5th house, spiritual knowledge, intuitive knowledge, and indeed academic knowledge, is to the greatest extent here because the knowledge has come to yourself. And if by other factors you don't have children, the 5th lord in the 1st house will give you happiness, educating, mentoring, and generally helping and guiding younger people. On the other hand, you have a very strong fighting energy with this combination. Why? Because Sun is a Karaka for the Sutesha, and going into this 1st house, you like to fight for your corner. Definitely, you can be argumentative even sometimes. It depends who is Sutesha. If Sutesha is malefic, like Shani, Mars, Rahu, Ketu, Sun even himself, then you can be really confrontational sometimes. And even if Sutesha is benefic, but he is connected to these malefics in the 1st house, that will also be the case. And this tendency will definitely impact relationships because the 5th lord, Sutesha, is in the 1st house looking at the 7th house of relationships. Make sure that you are sharing what you have. It's sometimes a bit hard for you because you don't totally trust other people, especially with your money, with your wealth. Sharing what you have will take away a little bit of the negativity of this fire energy going onto the 7th house. Now, Sutesha represents who we love, as I've just explained on the video previously. Gone into the 1st house, who do you love? It's obvious you love yourself. Now, this sounds negative, but it can be positive also. It becomes negative when it's a real obsession with your own physical body, with your fitness, with your beauty, looking in the mirror all the time, checking how gorgeous you are, obsessed with plastic surgery. All of this vainglory can happen with this position. That will not be favorable because it will actually draw you into an endless competition with other people. Don't forget, you are competitive. However, fifth house Lord represents Vidya, knowledge. And if when you look in the mirror, you look at your eyes and deep into your eyes, you see your soul, this will bring you closer to God, of whom you are part. So taking the spiritual concept of loving self as actually part of the Supreme, getting that spiritual real knowledge, this will save you from a lot of suffering. But the creative ability of the Sutasha is doubly strong in this first house. When you want to start something, you are completely motivated, determined, on task with it, mostly, unless there is severe affliction to this Sutasha. So you can be incredibly creative and productive. When Sutasha, fifth house Lord, has gone into the second house, it increases the possibility of many children. This is what Parashara talks about. Of course, you must also check the other factors in your chart indicating children. Check the beginning of the video, timestamp below. Fifth Lord in the second house will give you increase in resources through your creative ability. You can even get fame from this. Many people, Parashara talks about this. You will certainly be known in your local community as a really upstanding person. You will have a great deal of respect coming your way from other people. You can become a source of inspiration for other people, and you're definitely extremely family-minded. You want to take care of your family. Family is absolutely always foremost in your consideration. The Lord of Love has gone into the second house. Who do you love? You love your family, as I've just explained, very, very dearly. But also, you love food. This is a house of food. Now, depending on the actual planet involved and the other planets here, this can have many meanings. You could have an eating disorder. Food could be a real problem for you, but mostly it is a creative and positive factor. I've seen many people who like to cook, who like to bake, who actually make money from food, also have this position. Sutasha's gone into the third house. We know what you love to do. You love to communicate with others. You love all of the tittle-tattle, all of the gossip, all of the local community goings on. You like to feel part of things, definitely. But this makes you extremely argumentative, confrontational sometimes, because this house contains the energy of Mars. Where is the love going? It's going towards your siblings. Siblings become extremely important to you. They become the sort of light of your life because the sun energy has gone into this third house. They may be brilliant, outstanding people in some way or exceptionally successful. But certainly watch your general communication with others. There can be many misunderstandings. You can tend to hide things from others. Sometimes, worst case scenario, you can actually go behind people's backs because you're afraid to be open, honest with them. You definitely can get drawn into some very unsavory characters, friendships, associations by this position. So watch who you hang around with. They can influence you very negatively. One thing you're very afraid of when you have the fifth Lord, third house, is of debt. You don't like to be in any sort of debt. You don't like to have loans. You don't like to borrow money. Staying above board financially is extremely important when you have the fifth Lord in the third house. In fact, not only do you dislike debt by this position, but the fifth Lord, third house, you can be very frugal, very wary about excess in any way. Say your fifth Lord is the moon, you can be very frugal with your food, saving up food, not wasting food, which can be a good thing, of course. If your fifth Lord is Venus in this house, you can be frugal, sparing with your clothing, so on. You have to see, but you do not like waste in any way. There are many malefics with this fifth Lord in the third house. You can tend to hoard a lot of things as well, which can become a negative and obsessional factor. You have to become aware of that and declutter when necessary. But you can be very, very creative in your written word. Novelists, writer, media people all benefit from the fifth Lord in the third house. The fifth Lord, Sutasha, going into the fourth house is a Raj Yoga, a very powerful yoga, because a Trine Lord has gone into a Kendra house, giving it power, and it brings many good things to you. First of all, it will definitely bring you a very close love for your mother. Now, everybody loves their mother, but this is a very special karmic factor by the fifth Lord in the fourth house. It's excellent for your material well-being because once again it's a Raj Yoga, bringing wealth and a great deal of resources, especially properties, into your life. In fact, dealing with properties, home improvement, landed interest can be very favorable for you. You can be very creative in this way, and it can definitely be a big earning potential for you. The fourth house is your place of birth. You love your land of birth. You love your country, and anything to do with promoting that in your life makes you feel truly happy. In fact, in general, the fifth lord in the fourth house makes you a very happy and optimistic person. You bring a lot of happiness to other people. You feel happiness in your heart. Unless there is severe affliction to this Sutasha, that is generally the case. And your education goes very well as well, because these are both the house of learning. Fifth house is the actual learning, studying, and fourth house is the actual education that you receive. So you study well and you enjoy learning also. When Sutasha has gone into his own house, into the fifth house, is very favorable. It makes you a very virtuous, very kind, very caring person. Someone who is very, very dear to everybody. Why? Because the opposite house is a house of friends and society. So you are looking to them, they are looking to you. You are caring for your friends and they are caring for you. Sutasha fifth house can be favorable for your children, especially when there is benefic aspect here. But if there is malefic aspect, there can be some problems. Fifth lord, fifth house is generally good for your own education, ability to study, but it's also good for teaching others. This is a house of teaching, mentoring, giving out knowledge. You are definitely very talented doing this, and teachers also benefit from this position. But your special talent is giving advice to others. This is a very special, deep thing here because you have digested so much knowledge, understanding, and empathy. You are sought after by other people. This 11th house opposition, your knowledge, your advice is a great source of support for other people. You may have creative talent if there is a benefic in this house, particularly Venus, Moon, Jupiter give that creativity sometimes. What you will definitely have though is the ability to sustain yourself through difficult times. Knowledge, understanding of deep scriptures, all of these things, this deep spiritual wisdom is in your heart when you have the fifth lord in the fifth house. The fifth lord gone to the sixth house can show quarrel, contention with a child, most notably with the first child, eldest child, particularly if it is male, because Parashara talks about this affecting sons more than daughters. In fact, without even knowing it or really thinking about it, fifth lord, sixth house, you could be very controlling towards your offspring, and this brings endless conflict. Try to let them be who they are to avoid some of the negativities of the position. But generally speaking, Parashara says that having children, having adopted children, foster children who are not your own can be extremely helpful in that some of these conflicts don't happen in that case. Sixth house is also about small animals. So this fifth lord going into the sixth house shows a real love, because fifth house is what we love of small domestic pets, animals. This can be also favorable for you. Don't be too controlling. Let them be who they want. And it can be a very favorable factor. In fact, this tendency to take on other people, to look after them, whether it's children or even non-human beings, actually is favorable. When you do this, when you give of your love to those who are not your kith and kin, you can often get wealth and success in your life by actually doing this altruistic action. This is because, of course, the sixth house is a house of debt as well. So the fifth lord in the sixth house shows some debt to these people, these souls. So when you are paying off these debts, you get good fortune in that way. The fifth lord in the sixth house can give you many followers, many fans. You can even be famous by this position. You definitely get appreciation from all who follow you in some way. Even a teacher, you can get a great deal of appreciation from your students. Finally, sixth house is a house of problems and conflicts. And fifth lord here, you find creative solutions to problems. You can go into law or all of these areas. You love to solve other people's problems, and you are exceptionally exceptionally good at doing this. When a Sutesha with that sun energy has gone into the 7th house, we can count 9 houses away to the 3rd house. That's the dharmic factor from here. So it cleans up communication really incredibly. What this means is that your word is your bond. It's a real factor of honor to you to keep your word at all times. So when you say to other people you will actually do something, you will move heaven and earth to make sure that you accomplish it. 5th Lord in the 7th house gives you joy from children, joy from educating, joy from helping, advising and mentoring others generally. Now the Lord of Knowledge has gone into the 7th house, which is the actual house of the marketplace, where everybody is with a different thing to sell. This has a very special implication. It makes you very broad-minded, especially in matters of faith, religion, philosophy. You are interested in everybody's faith, religion. You do not draw any distinction. You see God in many different guises. Who do you love with the 5th Lord? Obviously, you love everybody because it's in the 7th house of the marketplace, but especially you love your spouse. You give total devotion to your spouse when you have the 5th Lord in the 7th house. Now, the 5th Lord is also known as Mantresha, as I've just discussed with you. And going into the 7th house, finding that divine mantra will change your whole destiny. When the 5th Lord has gone 4 houses away to the 8th house, you can benefit from loans. Loans give you the property you want. Loans give you many benefits in life, and getting help from other people financially is definitely shown by this position. 5th Lord is a Lord of knowledge, and it's gone into the house of secret knowledge. We can see where it's going to go. You love all of those occult subjects, astrology, etc. And deep study comes natural to you. You're a perfectly natural researcher, and this can bring you fame and great benefit. So certainly 5th Lord shows what you love, and you love secrecy. You love to keep things to yourself, and you feel a great power from doing this. But it's also the house of love affairs. Be careful about secret love affairs. They can cause you some distress. Sutesha represents the first offspring, first child. Going into the 8th house, there can be health problems for that child sometimes. Definitely, though, you have to confirm this with the D7 chart to be certain. Be careful of your own health as well, because the 5th Lord represents the sun, as I say, and going into the 8th house can cause some long-term health problems. So these are very often related to your breath in some way, breathing problems, lung problems, asthma, etc. The cure for these will often be mantra, because this is the Mantresha gone into the 8th house. You need meditation and calm, most definitely, when the 5th Lord is in the 8th house, because your mind is disturbed very often. One thing you'll often see is a really short temper with this 5th Lord, 8th house. You get easily angry and easily frustrated, and this needs to be calmed down to help your whole mental and physical health improve. The 5th Lord Sutesha going 5 houses away to the 9th house is a very favourable factor. This is good for the first child particularly. First child can have fortune, can be extremely famous, or can have a very prominent and successful life. Now, Parashara applies this to your first son, but naturally this would also apply in this day and age to your first daughter, your first child, basically. The Lord of Knowledge going into the house of higher education, we can see it's going to be very favourable for your higher education, for your academic success and prominence even. You can even get a great deal of fame by this position, particularly in publishing, writing, media, all of these areas. There are many blessings coming from this position of Sutesha in this 9th house. It's a blessing for your connection to your father, from actually gaining knowledge and help from him. It's a blessing for connections to far distant cultures, far distant lands, and a blessing in connection with a guru, a teacher who is especially dear to your heart. Once again, because the sun represents or is karaka for this Sutesha, having gone into this 9th house, it's generally good for your health, for your mental well-being, and for your stability and happiness in life. The 5th Lord Sutesha gone into the 10th house is very favourable in many ways. It's a big Raj Yoga for you because the Trikona Lord has gone into the Kendra house. You can get wealth, prominence, fame from this position. You can definitely be an excellent educator or teacher. You're very skilled generally in mentoring other people, teaching other people, showing them techniques and skills, and this can be a big part of your career. In some cases, a huge inheritance can actually come from this Raj Yoga. Parashara talks about this specifically, but once again, you don't want to see too much affliction to this fifth lord as he comes into the 10th house. Because Sutesha has, of course, gone 6 houses away to the 10th house, there will be enemies, competitors on the path to face to your success. But generally, no matter how many enemies, competitors, conflicts, obstacles, you will generally be successful and overcome all of these. Sutesha carries the energy of the sun, as I've said, and the sun loves to be in this 10th house. So no matter what planet is your Sutesha, even a malefic, you get noticed. You sometimes feel like people are just watching you, looking at you. You're not getting it wrong. They are actually. And you get known for your glorious deeds. You're always in the limelight somehow. This is why people get jealous of you. But the fifth lord is what you love, so you actually love to be noticed. You like to stand out from the crowd. You love to be known for your work, for your career, for your success. All of these are really important, and you love to work. You just love to get on with the job. And the 5th house is a house of knowledge, Vidya, going to the 10th house, some knowledge, some inspiration you have to give to other people. It's part of your definite karma. And the 5th house Lord Sutesha has gone to the 11th house. He's gone to the house of larger groups of people, organizations, humanity itself. So who do you love? You love other people. You can become very popular by this position. Parashara talks about the Sutesha 11th house having a great deal of skill in many different subjects, knowledge of many different areas of life. It's very good for your education generally. You never stop learning, never stop gaining new skills. And this huge knowledge can definitely be very important getting income and wealth in your life. It's very favorable for your children. You can have many children by this position if you so will. And definitely they generally become prosperous also. This Sutesha in this 11th house definitely increases earnings, gain and wealth in your life. Sometimes speculative gain can also be there, especially when there are benefics applying themselves to the placement. Whatever is your Sutesha, it has gone into the 11th house, carrying that sun energy. So you can light up the world with your energy given to society. You can promote certain political organizations, social welfare organizations. You have to be doing something for the greater good. And this is where your skill is most needed. When the 5th Lord Sutesha has gone to the 12th house, you are taking that vidya from that 5th house, that deep knowledge, knowing, into the 12th house of spiritual understanding. So you get a deep knowledge, a deep spiritual wisdom from this position. Sutesha going to the 12th house can show some loss in connection with the first child in both male and female chart. There can be child going into foreign land where there is some distance between you. It doesn't have to be always so difficult, but there is some separation. There is some detachment happening with at least one child. Now, the big secret about any planet from any house going to the 12th house is that you have to let go of that factor. So the Sutesha shows that you have to let go of that attachment sometimes, but it can be good for you. It can actually cause you to have peace in the end rather than fighting it, letting it be. This doesn't apply to every single child, so please remember that. And again, it sometimes applies to sons more than daughters, but whatever, you must definitely check in the D7 to see if it is confirmed in that chart. It can also sometimes show that one child does something which you don't want them to do, goes where you don't want them to go, goes into a profession you don't want them to do. They could even become monks, nuns, reclusive, spiritual people themselves by this position. It can be a favorable factor, so it's very important not to oppose children. Let them be and to do what they have to do. Sutesha in this 12th house, Parashara also talks, can be very good, just like 6th house placement, for adopting children, fostering children, helping orphan children or any children who need help, any beings actually, non-human animals as well. Just like sixth house placement, you gain enormous good karma and happiness from this. With the Lord of Vidya and knowledge going into the 12th house increases your spiritual knowledge, as I've said, but also can be helpful for your education in foreign land many times. Most of all, though, this is the mantrasya gone to the spiritual house. You can get moksha, liberation, by a special mantra and by spiritual practice in this life. It's because, of course, the 5th house shows who you love, and gone to the 12th house, you love God. You have a deep spiritual wisdom. You are a very special soul, a definitely spiritually advanced soul to have the 5th Lord in the 12th house of your chart. Check out the other videos on your screen right now for the Lords through all houses. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to sub below. Goodbye for now, and God bless everyone.